hear you.
Oh, okay.
I hear you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I think we'll start now. I know most people will join later. So, and the session will be recorded and uploaded onto our YouTube channel for those who will join late or won't be able to meet. Maybe for the start, can we switch on our cameras so that we see each other's faces so that the presenter will know those he's talking to? Okay. Yes. I'll start by introducing myself. I'm Engineer Mubarak Isaku. I'm the coordinator for the Energy Technology Center under the School of Engineering for the University for Development Studies. Our dean is online, so he want to give, let me see, yes, Engineer Ibrahim Yakubu Hussein is online. We want to say something small. Then our Director for University Relations, Mr. Hai Mumin, will welcome everybody and the presenter to this webinar. Thank you. Hello, Prof.
Hello.
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. Good afternoon to everyone, and then welcome to our monthly seminar organized by the Energy Technology Center of the School of Engineering of UDS. We have been organizing these seminars to create awareness about the energy situation and the best way to utilize energy for national development. And this happened to be one of the key topics that we have been waiting for. And I'm excited about it because our last webinar was on the hydropower. And we had we listened to an expert and it was very informative. So we pledged to get someone in nuclear, and finally we have gotten it today. And I'm only excited that the world is facing a lot of challenges with energy, and nuclear seemed. And in Ghana now, we hear these days, just in the news yesterday, about how nuclear power we are going in. And then this, I think, is timely. And then our bit to contribute to this discourse, we are organizing this series, and we think it's an informative and very educative and create a platform for us to share our views and then contribute to national development. So on this note, I welcome you all. They will do you the official welcome, but this is welcome to this very interesting seminar, and we should all contribute, listen and contribute our best to ensure that we create this aid of energy crisis, how we can overcome it. So on that note, I welcome everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof, for the words of encouragement and excitement about this webinar. And I know we are all really excited about this presentation and the prospects that nuclear will bring into the country. We are hoping that if nuclear is finally implemented in Ghana, at least our tariffs will come down. So, Mr. Hai Mumin, hello, Director. Yes, over to you. Can you welcome our presenter so that we can kickstart the program?
All right. Am I audible?
Yes, please. You are audible.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm following in the footsteps of Professor Seni, and to welcome everybody onto this huge platform. But for me particularly, because I speak for the university and because I'm also responsible for the reputation management of the university, both within and outside the UDS community, I am very, very excited that you have been able to put this together. And indeed, I'm excited that over the last couple of months, it's a regular feature on the calendar of the School of Engineering, and particularly the Energy Technology Center. I'm excited because you don't just do these webinars within the university, you reach out to other experts across the country. And I believe that subsequently it will be other experts across the world. And that, for me, brings out the true definition of a university. And that as UDS, whatever we do here does not remain here, that we are ready to reach out to the rest of the world, to collaborate and to make the world a better place. I am excited to be part of this. And like you did mention, we may not necessarily be facing energy crisis at this point in time, but we don't have to wait for another 2015 to come our way, where we had doomsaw throughout the country. We don't have to wait for another 98 to come our way, where we had doomsaw in the 1998 and so on and so forth. That's with proactive thinking. A time will come where problems surrounding energy, especially because this conversation is going to be on nuclear energy, that the issues that we have been talking about in the media and in our various homes concerning how difficult it is even to afford to pay for these provision of energy, that this conversation will be a thing of the past, because we are starting the conversation now. And I'm excited that you have been able to put this together. Congratulations, and we welcome our guest speaker as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that hearty welcome. Yes, our presenter is in the person of Dr. Sogbadji, and he's the Deputy Director at the Ministry of Energy, and he doubles as the coordinator for the Ghana Nuclear Energy Program. So I think there's no better person to speak to this topic than him. And then I must say, we are honored to have in our midst Professor Saba Farage. He's the Director for our International Relations. And then Mr. Hubert Zahn. In fact, he was our first speaker on our monthly webinar series. He's also joining us. And we have other members joining us from Ghana Institution of Engineers, University of Energy and Natural Resource, and then a colleague in Germany, a PhD student in Germany, also joining us to participate in this program. So, Doc, over to you. You can share your slides and then we'll start. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your kind words. So I'll just go straight to my presentation. Please, can you all see my screen?
Yes, please.
Yes. Okay. So today's webinar presentation is energy security in Ghana, the case for nuclear. And we have to see why nuclear when there are other energy, alternative energy forms. First, let me go to our first president. When he was launching the atomic projects at Kwabenya, and he made this statement. He said, "We have been compelled to enter this field of atomic energy because this is already promises to yield the greatest economic source of power since the beginning of man. Our success in this field will enable us to solve the many-sided problems which face us all in the spheres of our development in Ghana and in Africa." And what he said is true 50 years ago and is true now, because nuclear energy does not only provide electricity, but also can be utilized in the agricultural industry and so many sectors of the country, of the economy. But for today, we are focused on power generation from electricity. So first, let's say energy, as we fundamentally know, that is the ability to do work. It means that if you're a country and you don't have enough energy, it means that you are not doing work and you have problem, you have economic crisis. So everybody tried to make sure that we get affordable energy. And governments over the years have drawn their plans, even in Africa, where they want to have railway network, interconnection grid to export power, reliable health, and even processing our raw material so that you can add value to it. And all this hinge on the supply of affordable, or I would say cheap power supply, which most developed countries have, and they are able to industrialize. So let's look at the potential energy sources that we have in Ghana. We have the hydro, we have the solar, and we have the wind, we have the wave. But we see that Ghana has exhausted all its large hydros by constructing Pong, Akosombo, Bui, and now we are even constructing Poalugu. So the remaining one, when all put together, will not even give us up to 2,000 megawatts. So for hydro, now we have to hybridize it with solar to be able to give a firm power. So then we see beyond this 2,000 megawatts, what happened? Because we have to keep developing. When we think about solar, our solar radiation spans between 4 to 6 hours, and we are in the tropics where clouds cover is almost every time. So the intermittency of solar will not be able to provide the needed base load or the needed reliable energy that we will need for our industrialization agenda. Ghana used to have 100% renewable, but now as at this point, it's about almost 34% of our generation mix. And in our policy, we want to increase clean energy based on the direction. Wind energy potentials are in Ghana. We are yet to harness it, but with the same issue of intermittency. What has the energy sector look like? As at last year, our total generation has reached 22,000 gigawatt hours with a consumption of 18 and an installed capacity of 5,400. And if we see, I don't know whether this thing is covering your screen. So if we see, we realize that the share of thermal is very, very high. Something is blocking my screen. I don't know. Okay, the share of thermal is very, very, very high as compared to the hydro.
We can see.
You can see what is blocking my screen, right?
No.
Okay.
Yes, everything is clear now.
There was some black thing covering the pie chart. That's what I'm.
Oh, okay. But we can see the chart.
Okay, all right. So we realize that thermal is taking over from the hydros, and we have also an issue of emissions, which we will also come to talk about when the world is moving towards clean energy. So as we see, our energy portfolio is growing. Comparing the year 2000 and 2020, our energy consumption has increased drastically, with most consumption coming from residential and industry and then services. But in developed countries, you realize that industry is rather consuming more. That means that we spend a lot of time watching TV and ironing at home than being productive because of the cost of electricity in the country. And this is based on the cost of our generation sources. Now, going forward, we know that since thermal is a major part of our electricity generation, that is using a lot of gas to produce electricity. But we have to also consider that we are signatory to SDG Goal 7 and the Paris Agreement, which says that we should provide clean energy and it should be accessible to all. And then if you see these two graphs on the left or the right as per your screen, you will see that this is our gas reserves that we'll be exploiting our gas from. And then when you see the graph on top, that is the base case scenario, by 2027, 2028, there's going to be a deficit of gas supply to power our thermal plants. And we have the high case where we are saying all things being equal, even including LNG, or still by 2030, 2031, there's still going to be a deficit for gas supply to our thermal plant to meet our energy demand, unless we are able to hit gas wells, maybe in the Volta Basin. But in the offshore, all these gases are coming from the offshore. And we are also looking at increasing our renewable energy penetration, but based on the variability, they cannot also become base load energy. So what is the way forward? Now we look at our energy demand and we realize that our energy demand will continue to increase. So as of 2022, we are between the moderate growth and then the low growth. So we are still not in the high growth scenario where we really desire to be. Let's look at the rest of the world. What has been their energy mix? Now we take the United States and we realize that apart from there is coal, there is nuclear, and there is a lot of natural gas for the United States. When we look at the UK, there's a lot of natural gas, nuclear is about 22%, and then there is coal. When we take China, China has about 65% of coal. That is why they consider it as the most dirtiest country when it comes to the energy mix. And then we look at Germany. Germany also have some level of renewable, but there's some nuclear and there is coal. So we look at all the energy mix of these developed countries who produce and export to us based on their cheap supply of energy. And then we have to advise on how we've planned for our energy mix in the future based on our resources and based on the world global agenda to produce clean energy. So looking at this, China is trying to shut down all its coal plants because coal is not an option. We don't have coal, that means that we are not taking the initiative to go coal because of its polluting nature and the emission of the sulfur dioxides and the nitric oxides. So we have the renewables, we have the gas, and then we have nuclear at our disposal. So let's see whether we are capable of turning our generation mix around. Now, why do we want to turn our generation mix? We look at emissions from the energy sector, and in the 1990s, agricultural emissions were the one contributing to the greenhouse gas emission based on emissions from animal and feed. Now, when we look at 2019, I just want a 10 years difference. And then you realize that the energy sector is leading in terms of 46% of emissions. That means that if you don't take care, the SDG 7 and then SDG 13, which has to do with climate, we will not be able to meet the goals. Will be a net emitter of greenhouse gases. Now, and focusing on the energy sector itself, which parts of the energy sector is emitting a lot? And you see that the transport sector, where we burn diesel and petrol and all that, is the major part of the emitting, and then there are oil and gas fields. Now, as we transition from all these oil and gas fields to electricity, what is the best way? Are we going to burn this oil to generate electricity? It will still have the same effect on our emissions. So we did some scenarios to see what would be the best advice for government in terms of our energy mix. And we did about 4 of them. And one of the scenario, like this one, which is down here, the T4, we didn't see any reduction. Emissions were still rising as business as usual. The 2 down here were still rising. But the T1, which is a mixture of nuclear as base load and gas with carbon capture technology, was able to reduce emissions as compared to the business as usual. The second scenario didn't include nuclear, but what was the effect? Now, we look at the cost of the various scenarios and realize that even though the T2, because you see that the T2, there's a reduction, but looking at the cost of production of T2, where T2 is the gas as base load with carbon capture technology to reduce emission, was too expensive to operate, even though it has a smaller initial cost, was too expensive to operate. We look at T1, it has a high initial cost where nuclear and gas is the base load, but the cost of operation is low. We look at the business as usual, where we'll be using the same systems we have. We realize that it will not be able to meet our energy demand in the future. And then for T3 and T4, they did not even reduce our emissions. So we come to look at the cost of generation, and we realize that nuclear nuclear with base load and gas as base load is giving us the least cost of generation, which will translate to end user tariff for industrialization. So now we look at all this scenario and say that, so do we have option for any other choice apart from nuclear? Based on analysis. So going nuclear is not somebody waking up and say that let's go nuclear. Like some countries where they politically wake and say we'll stop nuclear in our country. Ghana has to go through a lot of analysis, a lot of permutations, a lot of simulations to be able to give good results on why we have to go to nuclear. So in the T1 scenario, we realize that you have a complete mixture of electricity generation, where with the green one is the renewable, then the gold is the gas to power, and then the blue is nuclear. But when you come to the generation graph, you realize that the blue is very, very huge as compared to the other scenarios. Why? Because nuclear has a high availability factor of 93%. So 93% of the time, nuclear is operating as compared to the other energy sources. And so you see that renewable, when in the capacity, installed capacity, having a very high capacity, but in the generation is very, very, very small because of the intermittency. We are hoping that technology will increase, will be a better technology to make sure that renewable will provide some reliable power supply, and the intermittency issues will be reduced drastically. But for now, based on data availability, this is what we have. So we realize that the country will need to continue to develop its nuclear power program. When we look at the prices of the various fuels over the past 10 years, this is the data I got from 95 to 2012, and you realize that nuclear is fairly stable. The price of uranium is fairly stable as compared to gas that will go up and come down. And for now, as gas is becoming a transition fuel, if I'm to plot the graph again from 2012 to 2020, we will see that the price changing will be higher, but nuclear is fairly flat. So with a nuclear fuel, which is fairly flat, you're able to plan over 10 to 15 years, and pricing is quite stable. So the decision to consider nuclear for the medium to long term is entirely based on economics and achieving a lower levelized cost. And so Ghana's nuclear program was dated back in the 1960s, as from the beginning. I read increment statements, and then we were to establish a 2 megawatt research reactor at the Ghana Atomic Energy. This program was suspended, and then it was rejuvenated by a cabinet decision in 2008, when the then president formed a cabinet a committee to investigate the inclusion of nuclear into the generation mix. Now, look at these countries. Look at Africa, the world at night, the graph up there, the map up there, and the map down there. You see that in the night, all these countries are lit up. And then all the red dots you see below are countries with nuclear power plants. And if you look at Africa, only South Africa has a dot there. And if you look at the map up there, South Africa is lit nicely up there. And then you can see even the Egypt, the Nile River, which is also laid there. The whole of the African continent is dark. So that's why they sometimes call it the dark continent. It's not that our skin, but the continent is dark. You can see some lights around Nigeria, the coast of Nigeria there. Please don't mistake it for electricity. It is the flaring of the gas from the oil fields that is seen in space. That is why you see that light there. It is not electricity. So we are really energy deficient when it comes to energy for productivity, and Africa must make sure that our energy we get it rightly and clean. Now, we look at the cost of electricity in Europe, and all the countries above the line, the 20-cent line, have nuclear power plants, or they import electricity from nuclear. I say above, below. All the countries below, that is the Netherlands or the France. As you get lower down there, they either use nuclear or they import nuclear. The countries above the line, apart from Britain, where Britain, the tax on the electricity is high. That is why they are just above the line. You see, Germany used to be one of the countries with the cheapest supply, but with that political statement of shutting down nuclear power plants, they are one of the countries with the most expensive electricity generation in Europe. So decision making is based on economics and efficiency, not political. And you can look at the world, and the United States alone have over 100 nuclear power plants. And France has over 58 nuclear power plants, which is contributing to about 70% of its electricity. So these countries will be able to have clean and affordable. See, the UK have almost about 45% of its electricity generation coming from nuclear. And China is now building up. And this data, I know China's data will increase because recently they've commissioned about 3 more nuclear power plants, which will be competing with other countries. So we see that the developed countries that we want to emulate and make sure that you have industrialize are using nuclear power plants, and it is translating to end user tariff, as you see on the other side of the graph. Now I'm relating nuclear power countries with the economics of the world. You see the low income, middle income, and then high income. Now, nuclear comes to affect various sectors of the economy. That includes agriculture, health, transportation, and it accelerates development because it's able to even produce clean water and improve access to education. So when you look at Africa, and where we know that we don't have nuclear power plants, or we don't have, there's no energy security, we see that most of us are all in the low income country, with the exception of South Africa, which is green, which is there. And then you see all the high income countries, which are blue. And I showed again their corresponding map of the nuclear power plants, which is dotted all around the world. So nuclear does not only give electricity, but it also brings economic growth. Now, I want to, for those who do not understand how nuclear works, I want to throw light on nuclear. The basic principle of operating nuclear is based on heat through generation of heat through nuclear fission, by the fission of nuclear atom. So as you see the fission, what I have shown on the right corner of the screen, where there is a neutron bombarding a uranium atom into two, is on the microscopic scale. So you can, even when you stand there, you cannot even see it happen like the way you see it here. And then when it splits the atom, this thing happens in the the red line, you will see that the water, there's the blue, and then there is the red. So in the red, there is the reactor vessel. In that reactor vessel, that is where the fission takes place. And so the red water is the radioactive water, and it is hot because the fission produces heat. And then we have the pressurizer, and that pressurizer keeps the water from not boiling, so that the water will not boil and it will become steam hot. And this will go through another loop where it will pass through the steam generator. The water from the reactor and the water in the steam generator do not mix. So there is no release of radioactivity into the steam generator, the water in the steam generator. So that is why it is blue. And that steam is used to turn the turbine, and then the turbine turns the generator, and then we are able to get electricity. Now, to sustain the chain reaction in the reactor vessel, when the fission happens, more neutrons are produced, and these neutrons interact with other uranium atoms, and then this sustains the fission chain reaction. Now, you will see that there are certain rods or there are long lines which are entering the reactor vessel. We call them the control rods, and these control rods are able to reduce the population or reduce the power of the reactor as you desire. Then there is a dome which we call the containment structure covering the whole system, that is the steam generator and the reactor vessel. This dome is about 10-meter thickness of concrete with a steel lining. And this dome is able to withstand the impact of a Boeing 737 aircraft. And this is such that when there is radioactive release, it will not get out. And at the side of this dome is a reservoir, a water reservoir, that will fall by gravity and fill the whole area if there is an issue, to be able to cool. So these reactors are designed to be safety, passive safety inherent. It means that you don't even need to interfere for it to trigger its safety action. So this is the basic explanation on how nuclear power plants work. So this is an example of a pressurized water reactor. There are other reactors which we call the boiling water reactor, the fast water reactor, based on their design. So what has government been doing so far with the nuclear power program? Now, government set up the Ghana Nuclear Power Program Organization, and that is the structure on the left, on the right, where it is housed at the Ministry of Energy, and it has its technical cooperation institute, that is the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission, the Nuclear Power Ghana, and the Nuclear Regulatory Authority. In recent, I think, was it last week, the President, His Excellency, the President announced that the Ghana Nuclear Power Program Organization should be located at the office of the President for efficient running and to have direct oversight, because of how important nuclear is to the future of this nation. So the GNPPO, when it was established, the Ghana Nuclear Program, which was established, was to make sure that you come out with a legal regulatory framework and establish an independent owner-operator, come out with spent fuel management, and also provide siting for the construction of the nuclear power plants. Because you know that we also have to make sure that we come out with funding and financing mechanism, develop human resource, and also include the participation of industry as we go into our nuclear power program. So the objective was we prepare the manpower, as I said, and also develop a structured stakeholder engagement to make sure that the public understands our nuclear program, and also prepare necessary standards and guides and regulation regarding the use of nuclear, and also make sure that there's continuous demonstration of commitment to sustain the nuclear power program and provide laws that cover security, safety, and safeguards. So in establishing the Ghana Nuclear Power Program Organization in 2012, the following activities have been done. So, okay, so I'll not start from the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission. Okay, I want to skip this side because we've spoken about this, but I just want to remind us that when there was the coup, and then we were asked, once Cockcroft was asked whether nuclear was going to be necessary for our country, he said that Akosombo was enough, and for some 20 years to come, we will not need nuclear. I'll say he was quite right, but Nkrumah then was preparing the country for that 20 years to come. And truly, 20 years after, we had our first national power crisis, where there was acute shortage of electricity in the country. Now, so in 2017, President set up, in 2007, then they set up the cabinet to investigate inclusion of nuclear. And nuclear, the committee came about nuclear is necessary for our generation mix. The 2010 energy policy included nuclear, and the Ghana Nuclear Power Program Organization was established. Now, in 2014, the Nuclear Power Center, which was a center at the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission, was established to be a technical advisor to the Ghana Nuclear Power Program. And then the International Atomic Energy Agency visited Ghana and helped us to develop how we're going to rejuvenate our nuclear power program. And the IAEA, that's the International Atomic, have helped the country and made sure that we followed all the necessary steps, so that it's not that we are in a rush, but we follow all the necessary steps. We cross our T's and dot our I's in our nuclear power program. Then the roadmap in March 2015, the roadmap for the nuclear power program was established. In that same year, we had the Nuclear Regulatory Authority Act, which was passed by Parliament. And then we also signed all necessary international conventions to make us go nuclear as per the standards of the International Atomic Energy Agency. In 2016, the Nuclear Regulatory Authority was established, and this regulator is supposed to make sure that we license all the process and procedures that will be required to be able to plant a nuclear power in this country. In view of that, the Nuclear Power Center was upgraded to an institute so that it would be able to expand and be able to effectively assist the Ghana Nuclear Power Program Organization in executing its tasks to bring the first nuclear power plant in Ghana. And then in 2016, Ghana applied for a review of our phase one. Now, when you are going nuclear, there are three phases, where phase one is the planning phase, and then phase two is the implementation phase, and phase three is the construction phase. So we asked the IAEA to come and assist and see whether we have completed phase one, because most newcomer countries will import experts, will bring experts from outside the country, pay them a lot to be able to go through the phase one. But I'm proud to say that phase one was completed by Ghanaian scientists, by Ghanaians, and we did it and then submitted to the International Atomic Energy Agency. And there was only a few recommendations which we did, which we had to make sure that we do it. And so in 2017, the IAEA were here to inspect and see whether all the things we submitted to them as we are doing our phase one were real. And then they realized that Ghana was very serious in its agenda to include nuclear in the energy mix. In November 2018, so one of the things which we wanted to establish was the vendor country, and that is in vendor company, and that is in phase 2. So currently we are in phase 2. So we established the Ghana Nuclear, the Nuclear Power Ghana Limited. And Nuclear Power Ghana Limited is the owner operator of our first nuclear power plants, which we are yet to plant. And now that means that the 3 bodies that the International Atomic Energy Agency required was the regulator, the government body, and then the owner operator were all established. So they came back to follow up in October 2019 on the whether we have done what they said we should do when they reviewed our phase 1. And then when they saw it, they realized that we have truly completed our phase 1 projects, our phase 1 of the whole milestones. So we submitted our phase 1 documents to cabinet for consideration. And this year in July, government declared nuclear energy as part of the energy mix. So you realize that last week, the Daily Graphic even published it. Last year, that is 2001, Ghana issued a request for information to be able to identify a vendor country and a technology. And we had over 10 countries, 10 companies applying to be the first vendor country for Ghana. That means that they trust in Ghana, and they know that Ghana operates a nuclear power plant. Currently, we have identified 4 candidate sites which we will be able to put the nuclear power plants there, but we can only use 1 site. So we have to narrow on 1 site. We've still been cooperating with our development partners, and notably among them is the United States, France, Russia, China, Korea. So this is one of the inside of a nuclear power plant. You see all those lights in there. They are automated. They are able to give signals on how things are moving. And then you see that this is the outside of the nuclear power plant. When we went there, it was under construction. So cooperation with vendor countries is very, very key, because they are going to assist us to be able to develop our nuclear program and build our nuclear power plants. So the status of government policy direction on nuclear power infrastructure. Now, when the IAEA requires that you do 19 infrastructure issues, that is making sure that you address all these issues before you go nuclear. And those include the national position. And the declaration by His Excellency the President is part of the national position that we had crossed. Then the nuclear safety also has to do with the establishment of the Nuclear Regulatory Authority and the legislative framework, or establishing the Nuclear Regulatory Authority. So we have touched on everything in the 19 infrastructure issues. That is why we're able to complete the phase 1 of our nuclear program, and we are in phase 2. And in phase 2, that is where we are developing the institutions such as the Nuclear Power Ghana Limited, and the grid company already exists. And then the site preparation, we have, as I said, we have the 4 sites where we will establish 1 site. So we are looking at completing the phase 2, and then we commence construction of phase 3. So if you look at our roadmap, this is our roadmap where we envisage that construction should begin by 2024, worst case scenario 2025, whilst we be able to commission our first nuclear power plant by 2030, worst case scenario 2032, because it is very crucial in our energy mix. So these are the activities which we need.
is
Hello?
here so outdated, but it still works for definitely.
Hello? Okay. So
Yes,
this
continue.
okay. So these are some of the steps that we want to we are undertaking as with respect to the roadmap. And as I said, from the 2020 to 2024, the site is ongoing. The human resource training is ongoing. Grid assessments has been done, and what areas to be enhanced has been noticed. We have designated our owner operator, and if we identify the vendor country, we'll be able to start the contract considerations of this vendor. Then we'll be able to move into the agreement with the vendor for the construction of the nuclear power plant. So this is detail of how we are implementing our roadmap. Now you see that the national commitment date was at 2020, and then now it happened in 2022. It's not that we were not ready in 2020, but you already know that 2020 was a political year. So sometimes certain things must hold on. Now, because we want industrialize our local content to be very key in terms of our construction of our nuclear power program, we engage industry a lot in terms of our nuclear power program, so that most of the construction parts which does not require any technical expertise in nuclear, our local companies will be able to participate in that. And then the local industry mostly can participate in 4 areas: that is design and planning, the manufacturing and the procurement, and then construction and installation of certain parts of the facility. Because constructing a nuclear power plant is not only the core, but it goes beyond. There are other auxiliary facilities which need to be constructed. We have also done, as I said, the identify the 4 sites, and we are yet to identify the particular sites, and we have to make sure that the data from those sites are very up to date. So we have put probes and equipment on all those sites to be able to give us up-to-date information, to be able to also identify the preferred sites for our nuclear power plants. Now, when you look at the human resource, you will see that you have the human resource in the country. 1/12 of the people required at a nuclear power plant are nuclear engineers. The rest are already existing in the country, like chemical engineers, electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, chemists, mechanical systems analysts, maintenance, radiation protection, electrical systems analysts. All these people are in the system because we have thermal power plants which are already operating at Sogbadji, at VRE. So this shows that we already have the expertise. All we have to do is to nuclearize them for them to understand how the nuclear power plant works, the safety culture around it. And the School of Nuclear and Allied Science is already even training some nuclear engineers, and we have also been sending some Ghanaians outside to study masters in nuclear engineering to be able to adapt to the human resource. So if someone is asking, do we have the people, do you have the human resource? I say, yes, we have the human resource, because we've been doing engineering programs and all the other programs in this country for so many years. Now, with the legislative framework, I will not want to read all those legislative, but I'll say that Ghana has already adhered to all the international legislative instruments that the IAEA require for us to go nuclear. So we are very good with the international body, especially when they come to the peaceful use of nuclear. and also the supplementary compensation for nuclear damage. All this we are signatories to make sure that we are open country and we want to use nuclear for peaceful purpose. Now, the establishment of the Nuclear Regulatory Authority is to give confidence to Ghanaians that the regulator is the one, and nuclear is the most regulated energy source in the world. So if somebody is saying that the Ghanaians with maintenance culture, you know, that the world or the International Atomic Energy Agency and the regulator in Ghana will not sit down for you to do anything anyhow. Even if the regulator is not working, the international body will not allow you to do anything. So the regulator is made independent as possible. And the NRA is mandated to facilitate the development of policies on regulation and the management of activities. And then most of the staff are undergoing series of training and forming collaborations with international bodies such as the United States, the Regulatory Commission, that the UNSNRC, to make sure that we build the competence and then give Ghanaians the confidence that this is not business as usual, but nuclear comes with a safety culture. Now, when we come to safety, in nuclear, there's called defense in depth. Now, defense in depth, as I was showing you the animation picture, you see that there is a dome, and that is the last barrier of defense. There are so many defense in depth for the leakage of radiation. So it is not that simple for a nuclear, for radiation to get out of a nuclear power plant, or for a leakage to get out of a nuclear power plant. The first barrier is called the clad, where it contains the uranium fuel. And then after the clad, then we have the reactor vessel, and then we have the containment building itself. So safety, nuclear, I would say, is the safest building or the safest energy technology that you can see, because it can even withstand the impact of an airplane. It also have redundancy for its systems, where there are various pumps where if one fails, the other will take over to make sure that the system is running safely. And these safety systems are tested every time. Every time there is a shift, you have to make sure that the safety systems are functioning. You check all the lightning bulbs so that even if there is a malfunction of a bulb, you quickly replace it so that you will not compromise on the safety. Now, the current designs of reactors are safe inherent because they don't need a human being to intervene when there is an incident. For example, the Chernobyl issue accident was not having that safety inherent features. So you have to intervene manually to be able to trigger the safety systems. But modern reactor, and that was generation 1. It is like the first time they constructed a car, it went reverse. Now we are in generation 3+, which is more safe. Fukushima plant was generation 2. So as we are in generation 3+, they are having a safety inherent feature. Even the Chernobyl didn't even have a dome. So all these things which happen makes the system more safe. Then somebody comes with radioactive waste. How do you manage the radioactive waste? Now, there are various types of radioactive waste in the nuclear industry. That is the high-level waste, and then the intermediate low-level waste, the low-level waste, and then the very low-level waste. Now, all the very low-level waste are materials such as gloves, lab coats, and those things that can be incinerated or that have a half-life. They can decay and will become normal materials. So those things, they are not buried, but the high-level waste and then intermediate high-level waste are buried in geological repository. Now, if you consider the waste. For example, I'll say the average family in France has been operating nuclear power plants for over 50 years. And the waste is not, in fact, the average family generates a high level waste of the size of a golf ball. So it is not like the waste is so huge. And you can see here that, look at the human being and compare it to the containment of the waste. And that is the waste. The waste is what is written as, the number one in there. And then there are various containments, one container in another container, to make sure that even when you are transporting it in the sky and it falls, it is not going to scatter into the environment. Let's compare how the nuclear waste is treated as compared to other energy sources. And you will see that other energy sources are polluting a lot. Let's see, comparing waste of nuclear, coal, oil, natural gas, and wood. And you will see that they pollute the environment a lot as compared to nuclear, where waste is very, very small. And that waste even doesn't get into the environment, but it is confined in the containment and stored. So nuclear waste is not something which we can find around, let's say, like Zoom-Lion waste. Now, what is the position of Africa? Is Ghana trying to say something different from what Africa is thinking? We will realize that all these African countries have nuclear power programs. And the one country even missing, Zambia, also have a nuclear power program. Egypt has signed to build their five nuclear power plants with Rosatom of Russia, and they have commenced construction. So we realize that African countries are serious with energy security, and nuclear is one of the countries, nuclear is one of the energy technologies that will provide energy security and remove energy poverty from the continent. Sudan is one country too, which is very aggressive on its nuclear power program. So Ghana cannot be left behind. So that is why Ghana has also taken the nuclear program very seriously to make sure that our energy security is assured, and we will be able to meet the electricity demand, as most cars will be switching from fossil fuel to electricity. And if you don't plan well, this will cause energy deficits. And now electricity for moving for vehicles will be competing for the electricity for industry and electricity for homes. Now, the next thing is like, what about if another government comes? Is the nuclear a national program? And then, so I want to list this political interventions on the nuclear program. So in 2008, all governments in power have shown maximum support. Since 2008, they've shown maximum support of a nuclear program. During the NDC government took over from the NPP, they included nuclear in their national energy policy and established the Nuclear Power Program Organization and the Nuclear Regulatory Authority. When the NPP government took over, they rejuvenated the nuclear program in 2016, and they established the Nuclear Power Ghana to be the owner operator. Then in July 2020, the president declared nuclear as part of the energy mix of the country. So clearly, nuclear is one of its top priority for all successive governments towards our industrialization. So if you are there and there are certain organizations saying that Ghana can go nuclear and it's this and it's that, then that organization or institution is against our industrialization. One is gunning against achieving the 17 SDG goals, and also the global shift to clean energy. Because as I showed earlier, with our shift to clean energy, nuclear is going to play a significant role in our energy mix, else we will move into energy deficits. So there are some few questions which I wrote here and I answered so that it will reduce the number of questions which people have in their mind. So we said, is Ghana going ahead with the nuclear program? Yes, we have completed phase 1 of the nuclear program and has submitted comprehensive reports to the government of Ghana to select a vendor country. And there is GAEC. Is Ghana Atomic Energy responsible for the nuclear program? No, GAEC is a leading member of the organization, and they are a technical support organization through the Nuclear Power Institute to support the Ghana nuclear power program. Nuclear is being promoted to compete with other traditional sources. No, as you see from the presentation, nuclear, renewable, gas are all mixed together and harmonized in a clean way to be able to provide the needed base load energy. Okay, so the next question is, if nuclear is for the long term, why all the noise? You know that nuclear, you have to build the competency. As we say, you can't deploy nuclear like solar panels. You have to build and address all the 19 infrastructure issues. So, and make sure that everybody understands the nuclear program, because there are other countries where they didn't do the sensitization and it cost them a lot in their nuclear program, and that country is Austria. The one question, nuclear is an unsafe energy source for a country like Ghana. And I'll say the safety standard in nuclear are unparalleled in the world. As I said, it's the most regulated energy source. And with the Fukushima asset, there was 0 death. And all the death that you see is as a result of the tsunami, but not radiological. And the difference in death for nuclear radiation release is very, very, very low, extreme, because you cannot, it's not very easy for radiation to be released into the atmosphere. Now, it's only foreign companies can participate in the program. No, a large window exists for local companies, and we've been doing public sensitization. We've been working together with the Association of Ghana Industry to bring up Ghanaian companies to make them ready to participate in the Ghana nuclear program. The industry is a high-tech one, so only foreign personnel have the skill. And then we say that the industry is highly skilled, yes, but as we are training Ghanaians and we are sensitizing industry, we know that we can rise up to the occasion where we'll be able to participate in the implementation, because as I said, the phase 1 was done by Ghanaians without any consultancy work. So we have the expertise. If we put our heads to it today, when COVID came, the innovation in designing how to wash the hand and the sanitizer, a lot came from Ghanaians. And you realize that, yes, Ghanaians are very, very prepared to take up the mantle. We cannot manage our garbage. How do we manage nuclear plants? So the nuclear plants is the only large-scale energy producing technology which, plans for its waste. And its waste is part of the construction. So you cannot design a nuclear power plant without a waste management facility. So in conclusion, I'll say nuclear, which is going to be a clean base load of the future, is expected to enhance Ghana's energy security and serve as a mitigation against climate change. Nuclear power's economic and environmental advantages, as well as the availability of nuclear waste management technologies, makes it the needed base load addition to the continent and Ghana's existing power generation mix. So as Ghana is timely implementing the its nuclear power program, is going to help to provide secure, reliable, and clean energy for sustainable national development, as well as alleviate poverty, support industrialization, and provide affordable electricity for all Ghanaians. Before I say thank you, I would like to say the one thing that Nkrumah said, during the atomic project again. And he said, we believe that the amount of energy which can be generated in Ghana can play a decisive role in the development of industry, agriculture, health, and other services. Certainly, the foundation for the effective and rapid industrialization of our country must rest on the provision of cheap and abundant power. Thank you very much. And I wish to acknowledge the following institutions: the Ministry of Energy, the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission, the Energy Technology Center, the School of Engineering UDS, Nuclear Power Institute GAEC, and Nuclear Power Ghana Limited. Thank you very much. I'm here for all your questions.
Wow. Oh, Doc, thank you very much. In fact, you left us speechless. The presentation was clear and in-depth. Yes, this part will allow those who want to ask questions can raise their hands. Then I'll call you to unmute your mic to ask your question. Then you will attempt to answer it. But before that, let me ask this question first. Yes, from what I've seen from the presentation, nuclear is not something that you walk to the store to start. That we are clear with. But I want to find out is with the timeline that has been kept, how will we sustain our energy security till then? That's one. And the other one, what are some of the estimated costs of energy of the nuclear plant that we are proposing in Ghana? As it stands now, our energy tariff is getting way out of reach for ordinary Ghanaians. So thank you. Hello, Doc.
Yes, I'm here. So the first question is about how do we
the timelines for the implementation of nuclear energy in the country?
Yes.
As against our current energy security, will we be there to even reap the benefit of it?
Okay. Now, I think I can hear myself. So, okay. Now, when we look at our timelines, we cannot rush a nuclear program. A nuclear program has its timeline, and then we have to follow it to make sure that we can safely deliver a nuclear program. So a nuclear power plant. So currently, there are ways in which we are sustaining our energy supply through gas to power. But as we said, gas to power, gas is finite based on the graph that you saw that by 2027, 2028, we may have a deficit in gas supply, and we may heavily dependent on imported gas if it is available. And we may also rely on some amount of the renewables. But then we'll also make sure that we will stick to our timeline to deliver our nuclear power projects. So there's no need to panic whether there'll be a problem with electricity supply. But if we don't stick to our timelines, then we will have challenges.
Okay, thank you. And then the estimated cost of energy.
Yes, so when you come to the nuclear power plants, financing is very key. And we are looking at possibly having a partner to finance our nuclear program. But when you take, for example, South Korea, their energy from nuclear is around 3 to 4 cents, US cents per kilowatt hour. That is our generation. Whilst Ghana, we are running somewhere around 12 cents to 15 cents per kilowatt hour. So you see the very vast difference. So when nuclear come in very large, it's going to dilute our energy mix.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for the response. I'll call on this your phone. It's a Galaxy A. So please unmute your mic and then ask your question.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Michael. I'm a service personnel at B Power Authority. And I want to ask a question about the financing of the project. I think Doc spoke about the nuclear power Ghana that is going to be the owner operator. And from my knowledge in project financing, if let's say the vendor country is providing the financing, are they going to man the projects, recoup all their investments, get their profit, and hand over the plants to Nuclear Power Ghana? Or Nuclear Power Ghana is going to operate and maintain? And if, or is it that we are going to provide the funding, Ghana is going to provide the funding? Because I learned that the nuclear power plants can cost billions of dollars. And considering our economic difficulty now, are we able to raise that money, or is going to be another country or a partnership? And how is the funding going to be sorted out? Thank you.
Okay, yes, nuclear power plants has a high initial cost, running into billions of dollars. So there are various funding mechanisms that the country can look at, where we have the BOT, where you maybe the country, the vendor company comes in and build and transfer. There's also the EPC plus finance, where Ghana will contract a company to come and build, and then another company to finance it based on a loan. And then there's a payment term which is different from the vendor who is constructing. So the plant is fully owned by Ghana, and then you'll be servicing that amount which to pay for the plant. Or the vendor and the owner operator can go into partnership, like as a VRA and TACA went into a partnership to build the TICO plant. So we have all those financing schemes that we can consider. So all this comes in when we are concluding in the phase 2 of the nuclear program.
Okay, thank you for the response. Mr. Felix, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
Thank you very much. And we were talking. You mentioned that countries such as China, the UK, and even Europe are looking at new nuclear builds, considering the fact that the world's nuclear resources are finite, around 6.1 million metric tons. And Ghana does not have it as an indigenous resources. What are the value proposition for the nuclear power looking at nuclear resource security?
Okay, so I'll tell you that Ghana is a blessed country. We have uranium deposits in the country, but you have to do, there are certain protocols that you have to undergo to mine uranium. And for now, we are looking at building the nuclear power plant. And as I showed you, the pricing of uranium that is fairly stable for almost 10 years. Secondly, there are other, I know the uranium pricing, uranium resources are finite. However, there are other fuel technologies that are coming out that we call thorium. And thorium is more abundant than uranium. So if you look at that resource, it means that there are, for so many millions of years, we are going to use nuclear. If we say that uranium is getting finished, thorium can also be used as a nuclear fuel. Then we are looking at nuclear fusion, which is also in the near future. I know China and France are working on nuclear fusion, which even uses less material to produce more energy. So there's a bright future for nuclear technology when it comes to the availability of resources.
Thank you for the response. Yes, thank you. Yes, we are way past our time, so I'll ask Mr. Abdulrahman to ask his question, then Mr. Genesis to also ask, and then we can end the session. So, Mr. Rahman, unmute your mic and then ask your question.
Okay, thank you, sir. My name is Abdulrahman Lansa. I want to ask about this doc. When you showed, it seems our nearby countries, they weren't having any nuclear program in Africa. So I wanted to know to what extent do like the countries agree on? Do they have like do Ghana have to consult any of those countries before moving ahead to because of the safety standards for the nuclear energy? And also about the training of personnel, like how is it done? So like if someone wants to do nuclear energy, how do we get the opportunity? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So consulting our neighbors, I'll say Nigeria has a nuclear program. Sudan has a nuclear program. Niger has a nuclear program. So our immediate neighbors, that is Togo, Benin, and Ivory Coast, they don't have a nuclear program. Yes, you will definitely inform them, but they also know at the ECOWAS level that this is Ghana's vision to have nuclear in the generation mix. And even for now, as the president has declared that nuclear is going to be our generation mix, at that level, they are aware. There is no thing for compensation or anything that we have to do for them because we are going nuclear. As I said, nuclear is one of the safest energy technologies in the world. So yes, they are aware that that we are going nuclear. The same way, we are also aware that sometimes they are building a thermal plant and they are building a solar farm. Now, for the training of personnel, yes, we have established the graduate school of the School of Nuclear and Allied Science, and anybody can apply to be a student at the School of Nuclear and Allied Science, especially those with engineering and pure science background.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. Genesis, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
Doc, thank you very much for your wonderful presentation, and I'm grateful for this presentation. In fact, I'm happy about the presentation. I just want to ask this question that looking at Ghana current stand, our economic stand now, are we considering SMR also in the picture?
Okay, so when we issued our request for information last year, we requested information both for large reactors and small modular reactors. So we have reviewed those technologies and we have made our recommendations. So very soon, the technology type and then the vendor country that we are choosing will be announced.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much for the positive feedback that we've received and then the questions that you asked. And I think I want to call upon our Prof, the Dean of School of Engineering, to give the closing remarks, and then we can end this webinar. Hello, Prof.
Hello.
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, thank you so much. I don't know what to say, except to say a very big thank you to our presenter. He has done a marvelous job for us. And indeed, we have said it before, that nuclear is the future. In Africa, it's only South Africa we know that have a nuclear plant. The others have nuclear programs that are still developing, including Ghana. And then the recent developments indicate that Ghana is making strides towards nuclear technology. The concern of many will be the alignment of world powers. In the event of Russia and Ukraine war, Russia is a world power with a lot of nuclear technologies. And then one begins to think when Russia is getting isolated, whether our own policies are inclined towards Russia or towards the West. And then that might be a question that needs a clarity. But I think our presenter did very well, and he has touched all the areas that we have been talking about. And indeed, if nuclear comes into stream, like the moderator said, our tariffs begin to come down. I wonder whether that will translate to tariff reduction. But it will be reliable, it will be accessible, and maybe the coverage will go far. But of course, maybe tariffs can come down. And I'm excited some students are asking questions about potential of graduate training. Some of our students are on the platform and are very much interested. And I think they should explore this as a new area for them, because with the strike Ghana is making, there's going to be a lot of personnel requirements, and we should not be just importing brain power if we can develop our own. And so on that note, I want to say thank you, and to all the participants. This has been a very great presentation, and I believe it has opened our eyes towards this issue of nuclear technology and the nuclear power development of the state that we are in Ghana. And hopefully in our lifetimes, we may witness the transformation Ghana can get through nuclear power. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof, for the closing remarks. And then I want to say a big thank you again to Dr. Robert for the presentation. And so we can switch on our cameras to see our faces one last time. Yes. So we are very grateful for you making time to give us this presentation. We are hoping that in future engagements, you'll be willing to come in again to support us. And we hope to even collaborate with the Ministry of Energy as a center for some of these programs that you channel out. We are really looking forward to that. And then I'll talk to the presenter, those who have shared their email list. I will take the slides and then the recorded video after it's been processed and shared to all, and then it will be made available on our YouTube channel too for those who want to watch it later and make reference. Thank you very much, Doc. Again, we are really grateful for the time that you've spent with us. So want to say bye-bye to you.
Thank you too.
Hear from you again.
Thank you.
So